and indeed a strong contributor to it. And we should always remember that NATO covers a very wide frontier from the high north, the Arctic in Norway, all the way through to the Black Sea and to Turkey. And it is very important, one of the oldest members of NATO, that we understand in this environment what what Turkey is concerned about, and address them in order to make sure that the 30 nations come together to support and accept Finland and Sweden. I will be speaking to my counterpart. I speak to him regularly anyhow, the defence minister, and I've listened to the words by President Erdogan about worries about PKK terrorism groups and whether members are doing enough to deal with it. I think there is a way through. I think we will get there in the end, and it is very important that we listen to all members and their concerns in that process, and we will certainly be listening to Turkey.
Well, for more on this, William Lawrence, who's a professor of political science at the American University, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Welcome to you. Now, we just heard the British Defence Minister say there that he thinks there is a way through. What do you think that could be to tackle Turkey's security concerns, of course, regarding Finland and Sweden's NATO membership?
To do exactly as he says, and I agree fully with the British Defence Minister, Turkey does have legitimate concerns. It has expressed them, and they should be addressed. And I think one of the ways this can be done is to come to a finer definition about who's a terrorist and what should be done about it. So, for example, among the Kurdish who are in Sweden, who are in Swedish parliament, who walk the Swedish streets, there may be those who fly a flag, right? That's not terrorism. There may be those who express a Kurdish point of view. That's not terrorism. But there are real terrorists. There are those who are engaged in encouraging the killing of civilians by terroristic means in Turkey. And those real terrorists should be dealt with one way or another by the Swedish state, by the Finnish state. That's, of course, it's worse of a problem in Sweden than in Finland. But they have to come to some sort of agreement over what should be done in that circumstance. And I believe as well, if there are sanctions on Turkey that can be lifted, this would be a gesture in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And this is really, in the end, as I've said a couple of times before on TRT, a mutual security issue. Imagine the tables were turned and Sweden was in NATO and Turkey was not. And Turkey, threatened by Russia, wanted to join. Right. And Sweden had issues about terrorists against the Swedish state that were in Turkey. Turkey does have some sovereign rights, mm-hmm. but Turkey should take seriously the Swedish concerns and say, look, if there are terrorists in our midst, we will take action against these terrorists, and then come up with a definition over who really is a threat and what should be done. Mm-hmm. So it's not simply as saying you must do as we want. It's a question of saying we will identify together who the real threats are, and we're going to take action together, even if in the past we did not do this effectively.
And so you're talking about really getting that finer definition of who is a terrorist. But surely Turkey has done that work. It's not just an umbrella term that's being just bandied around.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go a little bit further into Erdogan's concern, take the YPG, right? These are the Kurds of Syria who allied with the United States, with Western powers, with NATO powers, but not necessarily as NATO, against Assad, right? And sometimes in war, the enemy of your enemy is your friend, even if they might be considered terrorists. I mean, look at the way the U.S. worked with the Taliban against Russia during the Cold War, and then the Taliban, after the Russia left Afghanistan, were now the terrorist enemy. So these things happen in warfare. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, retroactive designations do anybody much good. Mm-hmm. The U.S. has worked closely with Turkey within Syria, separating, who the U.S. gave arms to and who they didn't, how they worked with the YPG in certain circumstances, but not in others. Many of the ISIS terrorists in Syria were held by people who the Turks consider terrorists, but they're working with the United States on the detentions of close to 50,000 ISIS members and family members, that period. And some of them actually are still being held in these areas in Syria. And then the U.S. had distinguished between, friendly Free Syrians, who the Turks were also supporting in Syria, and those who are a threat to the Turkish state among the YPG, who may receive arms and then funnel them to real PKK terrorists. And again, that's a very let's say, specific and complex set of designations rather than a sweeping designation. And so these are the types of complex negotiations that I think should come down to people-by-people designations where common ground can be found.
William Lawrence, thank you so much for explaining that in detail. Appreciate your time and your thoughts. Thank you.